Welcome to Hamburgers Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and murderous good guy dolls. I'm Noah Hook, and today I'll be ranking my top 10 favorite deaths from all 8 Child's Play movies. The Child's Play franchise has brought some gruesome, creative deaths over its 30-year span, and today I'm sharing my favorites and what I consider to be the best. This list is only going over human deaths. I have a whole separate ranking for all the doll deaths. I used a variety of criteria to rank the kills, including inventiveness. How much does this kill stand out in the pantheon of horror? Uniqueness to Child's Play? Does this kill take full advantage of having a killer doll, or could anybody have done it? Importance to story? Was this somebody integral to the plot or just a background character? Quality of effects? How good does it look? And cool factor. This is basically how much I like the kill. Everybody has their favorites. Before jumping in, I just want to say this was a lot tougher than I expected. There are a lot of kills I love that didn't make the list. And of course it's a pretty subjective list, so I expect everyone has some favorites that won't make the list today, and that's okay. Let me know what they are down below. With all of that said, why don't we jump into the rankings. Number 10. I had to start the list with the death that started it all, Charles Lee Ray at the beginning of the very first Child's Play. This opening sequence has it all, a gunfight, a crazy voodoo ritual, and a big-ass explosion. We know very little about Ray at this point, but we quickly realize the lengths he'll go to keep on killing. You can argue Charles doesn't really die, but it is the end of his human form, and this is what kicks off the entire franchise, so I had to pay it some respect. Ray was ultimately the one who transported his soul, but it was Detective Mike Norris who landed the fatal shots that led him to such drastic measures. Number 9. So I sort of cheated for number 9 as it's a tie between 3 different deaths. First is Diane and Russ from Bride of Chucky, and second is Claire from Cult of Chucky. They all die via glass raining down on them, one by Tiffany in a seedy Niagara motel, and the other by Chucky in a harsh, white psychiatric institution. The kill is great in Bride. The waterbed bursting is hilarious, and we even get a doll sex scene because of it. Not to mention their gnarly looking corpses. The method was brought back for Cult, and it was done with even more style and flair, and a mean decapitation to top it all off. I couldn't decide which I preferred, so I just jammed them together. Number 8. My 8th favorite kill comes from Child's Play 3, when Chucky kills the money-loving CEO, Mr. Sullivan. The first kill in the movie, Chucky starts off pretty stealthily, allowing his fellow toys a moment to fuck with him before striking with his golf club and zinging out a ridiculous one-liner. Sullivan is ultimately finished via strangulation, and his death is a solid start to a less solid movie. It's not the flashiest on the list, but the build up to it is really suspenseful, and the late Peter Haskell does a great strangled face. Number 7. 7 is going to a kill I know a lot of people love, the factory worker in Child's Play 2. This poor guy just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and gets a new pair of eyes for it. We see the machine a little earlier, so we know something is coming with it, but nothing can prepare you for the actual kill the first time you watch it. It may be a quick, relatively unimportant death, but the final image was very impactful on young Noah, and makes great use of the factory setting. Number 6. Now we're getting to the really good stuff. My number 6 is going to Dr. Foley from Cult of Chucky. This despicable doctor spends the entire movie manipulating, brainwashing, and sexually assaulting the helpless Nika. I couldn't wait for his death, and it surpassed even my expectations. After Chucky takes over Nika's body, it has regained the ability to walk. The barely conscious doctor must regret those red heels he put on his victim, as Nika Chucky uses them to smash the ever-living fuck out of his head. There are a lot of great head prosthetics in the Chucky cinematic universe, but Dr. Foley's is probably the most grisly. Number 5. To start off the top 5 is my favorite from the original, John Bishop. John is the guy who taught Chucky all he knew about voodoo, and definitely regretted it by the end. It seems John used his knowledge for good, and was disgusted with the monstrosity Chucky had become, refusing to help him become human again. Unfortunately, John was too trusting of Chucky at one point, and showed him his very own voodoo doll. Chucky used this to break a leg, an arm, and once he received the info he needed, stabbed the shit out of him with it. He was able to hang on long enough to warn Karen, but eventually died due to his injuries. Rest in peace, John. Number 4. The 4th spot goes to one of my favorite characters, Tiffany Valentine in Bride of Chucky. The first half of Bride is super solid, and Tiffany and her weird-ass trailer are a big part of that. After locking Chucky away with his new bride, she takes a bubble bath and watches Bride of Frankenstein. Too bad Chucky was able to cut his way out, and although Tiffany puts up a fight, it was ultimately her TV that killed her. There are a few good electrocutions through the series, but I think Tiffany's is the cream of the crop. Tiffany's convulsing body, the bubbles, Chucky's maniacal laughter, it's a very pleasing death to watch. And it does come with the bonus of her soul being transferred into the bride doll, so it wasn't the end of our time with Tiffany. Number 3. My third favorite kill from the franchise is a bit of a dark horse. I haven't seen it on anyone else's top 10s. It's my favorite kill from Cult of Chucky, and it goes to Madeline. She's far from the most important character in Cult, but her death is really brutal. She was admitted to the mental hospital after murdering her infant son, and attached herself to Chucky when he arrived. She carried Chucky around, undoubtedly helping him plan and gain information, but she also treated him like a baby in every sense of the word. She eventually tries to suffocate Chucky, and the doll is buried. When Chucky does return, Madeline seems to understand it's her time to go, and is at peace with it. Chucky ends Madeline's life by shoving his arm down her throat and ripping something out from there. And always a showman, Chucky proceeds to remove his arm and stick it back in there the other way, so his creepy little hand is sticking out. It's a drawn out, really unsettling death, and it makes great use of Chucky's removable appendages. Number 2. Unlike number 3, my second favorite kill is a fan favorite for a lot of people, and it's arguably the most iconic kill of all time for Chucky. The penultimate spot goes to Miss Kettlewell from Child's Play 2. Her teaching and detention practices were suspect, but she definitely didn't deserve her fate. She keeps Andy after school when Chucky doodles on his worksheet and locks Chucky in the classroom closet before locking Andy in the classroom. Andy dips and Miss Kettlewell thinks the raging Chuckster is Andy. She looks around for him, but all she gets is an air pump to the chest. While that alone sounds horrible, Chucky puts the final nails in her coffin with a yardstick. Being such a light weapon, it took Chucky a few smacks to do the job, which we watch from the classroom window, backing further away every time. This kill has everything: a jump scare, a disturbing death, an interesting way of being filmed, and Chucky at his absolute scariest. Before we get to my number 1 kill, here's a few honorable mentions. Ian from Curse of Chucky being de-jawed with an axe by Chucky. Tony from Seed of Chucky being beheaded with wire by Chucky and Tiffany. Gabe from the 2019 reboot being stabbed and de-legged by a Chucky-controlled table saw. Pete from Seed of Chucky being melted with acid by Glenn and his own clumsiness. Maggie from the original Child's Play being whacked with a hammer right out of a window by Chucky. Number 1. My all-time favorite kill from any of the Chucky movies goes to Chief Warren Kincaid from Bride of Chucky. This is the first kill Chucky and Tiffany commit together as dolls, and it does not disappoint. When the pesky officer tries to plant Jesse's van with weed, Tiffany decides Chucky needs to get past the 80s and generic stabbings. Warren follows her giggles to the front of the van where nails have been placed on the airbag. She jumps, Chucky cuts a cord, and the airbag goes off, leaving Warren looking like a Cenobite. They hide his body in some seat storage, and way later in the movie we realize he's not dead yet. As Chucky says, a true classic never goes out of style, and he brings out his handy-dandy knife to stab the Chief a bunch of times. The kill has a great mix of violence and humor, as well as old school and new school methods of killing. It shows the Child's Play franchise has grown and changed with the times, but knows what got them here in the first place. Warren isn't in the movie for too long, but he quickly makes himself super hateable, so we, the audience, can have a great time watching him die. All in all, I think it's a fantastic kill and very deserving of the number 1 spot. And those are my top 10 kills from the Chucky franchise. If I split number 9 in half, that leaves Cult and Bride in the lead with 25% each, and Child's Play 1 and 2 right behind them with 20%, and Child's Play 3 taking the rear with 10%. Seed, Curse, and the reboot all have their fair share of good kills, but none of them quite broke through to the top for me. And if I fully count Nika as Chucky, again split number 9 up, and count Charles Lee Ray's death as self-inflicted, that leaves Chucky responsible for 90% of the best carnage, and Tiffany sneaking in there with 10% of it. Glenn and Glenda didn't make the list, but their best kill is of course featured on my Child's Play doll death ranking video, so go check that out if you haven't already. Well, that's about it. Did you agree with my list? Did I miss any of your favorite kills? Let me know down in the comments. Next week I'll be ranking all 8 of the Child's Play films, so keep an eye out for that. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and this has been Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my Child's Play death rankings. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my Chucky content. And if you want to support the channel further, be sure to check out my Patreon account. You'll be able to request specific movies for me to review, and you'll be able to vote on future franchises that I cover. Thanks, y'all.